Hi everybody, and I hope you're doing well, and thank you so much for taking the time to watch my whiskey wandering videos. You know what? Hey, the videos and the channel, they are all starting to grow, and I am super duper so thankful to be able to make these videos and to have you all be a part of this little growing community of whiskey and bourbon lovers. It's just really crazy, spectacular, and amazing to see it grow. So thank you all again so much. Now, this time around, I am shopping, and I guess more appropriately, I'm window shopping for some of the most rare, coveted, and expensive bourbons that you almost never ever see in the wild. Today, I am watching the Sotheby's Rare Whiskey Auction and talking about some of the most interesting bottles that were sold, their prices, and whether or not buying these bottles at auction may or may not make sense in compared to buying them off the shelf on the street. Now, before we get to it, if you like these videos of me whiskey shopping, please don't forget to like and subscribe. And that way you can get updates when my newest videos get put up. So thanks again, and let's get down to it. Now, if you don't know Sotheby's, it's one of the most well-known auction houses in the world who sell everything from Picassos to Bugattis. But this weekend, they did their semi-annual rare whiskey auction, this time hosted in New York, and they have some of the craziest bottles that go for prices in the tens of thousands of dollars, but also some in the hundreds of dollars for, mere mortals like you and me and us, I guess. So if you ever wonder where you can get a bottle of, I don't know, let's say Pappy Van Winkle or Eagles Rare or Weller's without having to sell your soul, this may be one of those avenues, but again, it may cost you what you would pay for at least a year of college at a state school. But to be fair, you might actually get a little bit more enjoyment out of it. So either way, like collecting really anything, it seems like to be able to get these rare bourbons, it takes one of two things. Either one, a lot of time and research and searching, or two, a lot of money. In the case of Sotheby's auctions, it's going to definitely be in the latter of those two on the money side, because Sotheby's is basically already doing the legwork and putting in the time to find these hard to find bottles. So if you have the cash and you don't have the time, the Sotheby's auction is a great way to get some ungettable bottles and not have to go looking around for it. So let's look at 5 bottles that caught my attention at the Sotheby's Rare Whiskey Auction and what they actually sold for. Now, the first bottle that came up was the Pappy Van Winkle 23. Now, in this auction, they had 6 bottles of the Pappy 23 that were auctioned off completely separately, and the average high and low amounts for Sotheby's were initially estimated to go for between $3,000 and $5,000. So that was prior to the auction. Sotheby's estimated that that's how much the bottles would go for. Now, what they actually sold for on average was at $6,042. Of course, there were some that were higher and there were some that were lower, but I'm taking the average of the 6 bottles all put together and bringing out an average. Okay, so that means for a bottle of Pappy Van Winkle 23 at the moment at auction, you could buy it for around $6,042. So let's compare that to what you would pay if you bought it on the street. Now, at least here in Southern California, you'd be looking at a high and low price of $7,500 at the high end and $6,500 on the low end, putting the average cost per bottle at $7,000. Of course, this assumes that you can find the bottle, which, let's face it, you probably cannot. So when we compare Sotheby's average sold price to the street average sales price, you can see that if you had bought it at Sotheby's, you would have saved $958 or 14% off the purchase price. So in this instance, it looks like it may have been better to get the bottle at Sotheby's because you will definitely save money and you can actually get the bottle. So that's a big plus as well. Now, the next bottle I want to talk about is the Colonel E.H. Taylor Warehouse Sea Tornado Surviving 100 Proof. Now, these ones were super interesting because according to the notes, this whiskey had been stored in a Buffalo Trace bourbon warehouse in Kentucky in 2012 when a series of tornadoes struck the county and destroyed the warehouse. Now, although the precious barrels, they were unscathed by the tornado, so nothing happened to the barrels, they did eventually get exposed to the direct environment while the warehouse was being rebuilt around the barrels. So it gives them a very unique flavor profile that may actually never be repeated. Buffalo Trace says that due to the specific circumstances of this batch, the barrels actually saw a loss due to the evaporation rate of these surviving barrels that was more than double what the normal rate is. So with that being said, Sotheby's had a pre-auction estimate of a high and low prices between $4,500 on the low side and $6,000 per bottle. There were 8 bottles for sale in this auction, and the average sale price for the 8 came out to $6,343.75, which is $343.75 over the highest estimated price, or 5.73%. So let's compare that to what the street prices are for these bottles. Now, online, the prices are pretty crazy for these ones. So for the high and low prices for the Colonel E.H. Taylor Warehouse C Survivors, the low end is $10,999 and the high end is at $19,999. So that puts the average price at $15,499. So if you had that winning bid at Sotheby's auctions on one of these bottles, you would have saved $9,155.25, which comes out to 59%. So again, the auction seems like a infinitely better way to go than trying to buy it off the shelf. Now the next bottle is another from the Van Winkle family, which is the Pappy Van Winkle 20-year-old. Now, Sotheby's had the high and low for this bottle in a comparatively reasonable cost between $2,000 and $3,000. So that would put the average at $2,500. And in the auction, there was 13 of these bottles for sale. So it was the most bottles out of the 5. And they sold for an average cost of $4,375. This means that the price difference between the high estimate and the actual sold price was $1,375 or 45.83%, which seems pretty high, but when you look at the street prices, the highs and lows out there, it's between $5,000 on the low side and $6,000 on the high side, so $5,500 on average. And you can see that savings, if you got it from the Sotheby's auctions, is actually $1,125 or 20% over the average street shelf price. So again, another win for the Sotheby's. The fourth bottle that I saw that really caught my eye was the Booker's 13-year-old rye whiskey. Now this one also seemed interesting to me because I had not seen a Booker's rye really before, and the notes indicate that these rye bottles specifically tend to be sold for fundraising purposes and other charitable support. So for example, in 2017, Beam, the distiller, released 276 bottles only to help Hurricane Harvey and Hurricane Irma victims. The proceeds from these bottle sales went to pay for Feed America, the food bank, and gave it as a donation. So these bottles are rare, and they were for a good cause, at least when they were initially sold. There was only 2 bottles for sale, and it seemed to be at least in my plausible price range. So I guess if I buy these and I ever get elected president, I might actually be able to crack one open. But Sotheby's had the high and low pre-auction prices at $1,500 and $2,000. The average price between those 2 bottles sold was at $2,062.50, and that was primarily in fact due to the fact that one bottle sold exactly for the high of $2,000. So the difference in the pre-auction estimate high and the actual average sold price was $62.50 or 3.13%. So not that big of a difference. In comparison to the street high and low prices, again off the shelf, is at $2,889.99 on the low side and $4,999.99 on the high side. So that puts the average street price at $3,944.99. So if you get that Sotheby's auction, you would have saved $1,882.49 or a 48% difference in price between the shelf street price and the auction at Sotheby's price. Now the last bottle I want to talk about, number 5, is another one of the Pappy Van Winkle club. That's the Pappy Van Winkle 15. And like all the other members of the Pappy clan, it's a very difficult bottle to procure for us collectors and connoisseurs and just kind of normies. But the estimated high and low pre-auction price for the Pappy 15 by Sotheby's was between $1,500 and $2,000. There were 6 bottles of Pappy 15 sold at the auction, and the average price for all 6 sold was $2,395.83, which is $395.83 over the high estimated pre-auction cost, or that comes out to about 19.79%. Now, this seems pretty high, but you know what? It actually is kind of a decent rate, considering, once again, when you look at what the cost for these Pappy Van Winkle bottles are going for on the street. For this specific one, the 15, the high and low cost of the bottle on the street, off the shelf, was at $4,199 on the low side and $4,500 on the high side, which makes the average street price at $4,350. This means that the auction prices for the bottle is selling at 45% less than the average street price, or $1,954 less at auction than off the shelf. So again, it seems like when we look at just the auction sales price versus the shelf price, the auction almost always wins hands down. Now, the only missing piece to this puzzle is the other costs associated with the auction. So that could be shipping and handling, that could be some sort of secret auction prices or cuts that they take out. I'm not really sure. We have to look a little bit more into that. But when you look at just those price comparisons to one another, you can definitely not deny that there is a vast distance between what you pay at the auction versus what you're going to end up paying on the shelf on the street. All right, so that was it for today's whiskey wandering at Sotheby's Rare Whiskey Auction being held in New York over this last weekend. Thank you all once again so much for watching to the very end, and I hope that you enjoyed these videos. And if you did, please don't forget to like and subscribe. That way you can get notified when my newest videos get put up. Also, don't forget, if you see a whiskey that you love, just buy it. Because if you don't, somebody else surely will. And it might even be me. So have a great rest of your day, and I'm out. Adios.